Let's go ahead and dig in here to our presentation today. Our goal with this, with our time together, is to share with you what we've learned as farm operators ourselves. My teammate Morgan and I are both from farming families. Two, as operators at FarmRaise, on how you can have the least stressful, most empowering tax experience possible as we head into tax season this year. We want you to put your best foot forward. I should caveat this by saying we are not CPAs. We are not tax accountants. And so if you have really, really specific or, in the weeds questions, we're going to say, definitely ask your accountant about that. The insights we're going to share with you today are coming from our experience, working with thousands of farm businesses, and really also farmer to farmer tips on how you can make tax season easier, maximize your credits, and ensure that you're getting, the best possible return that you can. I'm just going to check the chat here. I'm seeing a lot of hellos here from Minnesota, Illinois, Wisconsin, Minnesota. Heck yeah, we got some good upper Midwest representation, Alberta, Michigan. Cool. We're so glad you all are here. Again, I'm Jayce. I'm the CEO of FarmRaise. I grew up on an Angus beef cattle farm, and that's really what made me passionate about streamlining farm financial and business tasks for producers. Like, our back office was essentially the floor of our pickup truck when I was growing up. And I remember tax time was always like such a stressful, time-consuming, bureaucratic process each year. I tried for a while to get our farm onto QuickBooks as a tool to help us up-level tax season and our business in general. But unfortunately, we just really couldn't. We didn't really find the software to be intuitive. It just wasn't quite right for the farm and for us. And so that's what really inspired me to go out and build FarmRaise, which is an accounting tool specifically designed for farmers. I'm joined here with my teammate, Morgan. Morgan has experience working in farm lending. She's also worked at a tax accounting firm, and she's now with us at FarmRaise, enabling farmer success. And Morgan, can you share a little bit more about the farm operation that you grew up on?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys so much for allowing us to come and speak with you today. So, a little bit more about what I grew up with on my family farm. We are a row crop farm. We do lots of corn as well as soybeans, dabble in a little bit of cattle here and there, and then do a lot of hay and alfalfa sales as well.
Thank you, Morgan. I see a hand raised here. I see Eros's hand is raised. Let's see, Eros, what's up?
That was just to let you know that the chat wasn't working.
Oh, perfect. Thanks for letting us know. Thank you for that. I'm going to say for the rest of this presentation, we will get to Q&A at the very end. So if you have questions at the top of your head, stick them in the chat or write them down, and we'll make sure we get to them either on the fly from the chat or during the Q&A afterward. So let's go ahead and get started without further ado. Okay, this is a chat question for you all. How are you all tracking your expenses today? What methods do you use? And if you don't track your farm expenses, that's okay. This is a space where you can share that. I understand, because we actually didn't do a good job tracking our expenses for a while when we first started up our farm. So anything is possible here. Just curious to hear, how are you tracking your expenses today? Maybe you're doing it by pen and paper. Maybe you're using a software solution. Maybe you have self-designed an Excel model that works for your farm specifically. Let's see what we got. All right, let's see. Okay, we have some QuickBooks. Woohoo! Okay, QuickBooks and I hate it. Oh, yes, I understand that. Brutal. QuickBooks and Local Line. Nice. Do you all have a QuickBooks integration?
We integrate with QuickBooks through Zapier connection, and then we also have like snapshot exports. So I'll be touching on that a bit before the Q&A.
That's pretty cool. Take note, everyone. There is a QuickBooks and Local Line integration. FarmBright, I've heard great things about FarmBright. QuickBooks, Excel, 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 QuickBooks, bank account, Spiral notebook for the win, QuickBooks and Excel, 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 QuickBooks, checkbook, and here we have one that is multiple: checkbook, Quicken, paper, cash, journal. Man, that is, you must have a very integrated system there with everything kind of flowing together, hopefully. We have another QuickBooks user. We have bank statement and Excel. We have pen and paper. We have one who says Hurdle, Excel. Another who has, Pat has a big pile of papers and receipts to sort out. Amen to that. I know how that feels. QuickBooks. And then another that says QuickBooks. Renee says QuickBooks is not written for farmers. LOL. Wave, paper, FarmRaise. Awesome. Cool. I'm glad that we have a FarmRaise user on here. All right, team, let's go ahead and make sense of this. So we're all tracking expenses in very different ways. I heard a lot of QuickBooks users coming out. I also heard some pen and paper, some self-designed Excel models coming out here, and then some, farm-specific accounting tools like FarmRaise. The goal of all these systems, among other things, is to enable you to complete your taxes every year. And that's really why we're here. We're talking about how do we demystify the farm tax process and make that easier for producers. Now, at the end of the day, what you're solving for is filling out this form here. And it's 2 pages front and back. It's fairly straightforward on paper, but then when you get into the weeds, you realize, man, it is actually helpful to have a financial expert or a software program or a farm accountant helping me understand what each of these lines mean. That's how I think about it. But at the end of the day, this is what we're solving for, a clean Schedule F to essentially communicate to the IRS what money we made and what money we spent on our farming business specifically. Now, Schedule F is what we're orienting around here, but I want to flag, especially for first-time producers or if this is your first year going through farm taxes, Schedule F may not be the only tax form you have to complete for your operation, depending on the sophistication of it. Another form that we commonly see producers having to fill out is the Schedule C. Now, Schedule Cs can apply for many types of small businesses that aren't agricultural, but if you also happen to sell value-added products that you produce on your farm, say if you've made your berries into jam, or if you have another value additive process like that, you may also have to fill out the Schedule C form in addition to the Schedule F. And the Schedule C will have unique categories on it. So think about what you're producing and whether any of those products are value additive products. And if so, you may have to go with the Schedule C. Similar if you have, multiple businesses, like you may have your farm business and a construction business that you're tracking, you may have to think about the Schedule C there too. But the Schedule F is what we are fixating on in this presentation because it is the core of the agricultural reporting forms for tax times. And this is for anyone who is producing and selling an agricultural product on your farm. This is the sort of your communication tool to the IRS. But what's really interesting is the categories on your Schedule F map, not perfectly, but broadly to other farm financial statements, like your balance sheet, your income statement. And so as you are moving forward in the year and tracking your expenses in whatever system you choose to use, whether it be pen and paper or a software tool, that same categorization that you are enabling through Schedule F will also help you build clean agricultural balance sheets and income statements. So when we think about setting ourselves up for success, it's really important to think about, starting with the Schedule F as that key piece. And when we're talking about expense tracking and accounting, we have to zoom out a little bit and think about, okay, so what type of accounting system am I using as a farm? There are 2 types of accounting systems you can use. You've probably all heard of these before. There's accrual accounting and there's cash-based accounting. The difference between these 2 is just when you recognize the point in time that the cash is flowing into your system. So the accrual method will mark and track your expenses and recognize that revenue coming in when the transaction has occurred, no matter when the money actually changes hands. So if you sold your cattle on December 31st, that is when we will recognize your money coming in, even if the other farmer who bought the cattle from you didn't pay you until January 15th. That's accrual accounting. That's one type of accounting and one system of accounting. The other system is called cash accounting, and this is often the type of accounting that we see farm tax experts recommending to farmers. and I'll tell you why in a second, but the way cash accounting works, if you're new to this, is essentially cash accounting recognizes the money coming in when it actually comes in. So if you sold your cows on December 31st, but Farmer Barbara didn't pay you until January 15th because she was late on her payment, we don't recognize that until January 15th rolls around and she actually gives you the cash or hands you the money. Like that is when the income is recognized. So we see a lot of farm accountants actually encouraging farmers to go with the cash method because this enables maximum flexibility. And for a profession that has so much seasonality and lumpiness in the cash flow, it actually creates a more realistic picture for you. So as you're setting up your expense tracking and accounting tool, we just want to share that we often see farm accountants, not every farm accountant, to be clear. I've spoken to some farm accountants that serve really big corporate farms who actually are very pro accrual, but we see most farm accountants that serve small or mid-sized farmers often push farmers toward cash-based accounting, which is super interesting. Now, as you set up your system throughout the year, and we're talking about tax time tips, but I'm going to tell you perspectives that actually apply not just to tax time, but through the whole year to ensure that when the season rolls around in 2026, you will have some tools under your toolkit that you've been implementing throughout the whole year to make tax season better. And this is really where it comes down to in record keeping. The ways that we've seen really successful farm business owners cut through the noise and implement a strong expense tracking and accounting system really boils down to a few best practices that I've shared here. One is, no matter what expense tracking system you're using, build in categories that you can tag your transactions with. Whether you write them down column by column or enter them into your Excel spreadsheet or develop those tags in QuickBooks or use FarmRaise that has them pre-tagged and cleanly organized for you. Ensure that you are using categories that map back to the Schedule F. And like I said, this makes tax time easier, but it also makes it easier for you then to categorize and organize all your transactions into a balance sheet, an income statement, and other financial records that loosely map to the Schedule F categories. So use those Schedule F categories as those transactions occur. Tag them in real time. And this will enable you to present a clean record to your accountant with confidence and say, hey, I actually know where these transactions are coming from. This is it. And this will help you make sure that you can maximize tax credits and tax deductions at once. And we're going to actually talk about that later in this presentation as well. The second thing is you can create a second tag in these transactions that will help you understand your business better. And where we've seen this really, where the rubber hits the road for a serious farm operator is when they can zoom out from their farm business and look at every product category that they sell. So maybe they sell alfalfa hay and they sell Angus beef cattle. They can then create 2 product tags in their system so that every transaction that goes in or out for their farm, they can tag those specifically back to the product that they're selling if it applies to them. So let's say they pick up some feed at Tractor Supply and they also pick up some rope. Let's say the rope is for the hay bales and the feed is for the cattle, but they can actually tag those transactions back to the cattle and back to the alfalfa hay so that each transaction can then effectively flow into a profit and loss statement for every major product that you sell on your farm. And that helps you over time understand the health of your farm business, as well as track and compare, a more detailed P&L across your farm over the years. We really want every producer to be able to see that profit and loss, not just by their whole farm, but really by the bits and pieces that make up their farm business. Third thing is common sense in this digital age, but also, it's hard to remember to do, but you probably all have a tool that can do this really efficiently for you, your phone. Every receipt, check, every piece of paper that changes hands, take a picture of it and store it. If you can categorize it and link it back to your transactions, great, that's optimal. I think, most farm accounting softwares will help you do that. But regardless, just create the digital paper trail so that in case you did get audited, you would have everything you need in the digital sphere to back that up. We all know what it looks like when a receipt has been sitting too long on the dashboard and you can't read the words anymore. It's brutal. All right. I'm now going to turn this over to Morgan to chat a bit more about how you can optimize your tax return.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about tax terminology, tax deductions versus tax credits. With tax credits, they are something that will reduce the amount of taxes you owe dollar for dollar, lowering your tax liability or the amount of taxes you owe. There are 5 main different types of tax credits for farmers. You have your fuel tax credit, your state tax credits, renewable energy tax credit, research and development tax credit, and federal earned income tax credit. With tax deductions, on the other hand, it reduces how much of your income is then subject to taxes. And then I will be getting into a lot of common tax deductions in the next slide, but I want to give you guys an example of how this is actually applicable. So let's say we start with $100. So with a tax credit, you owe $10 less and whatever that tax amount is at the end. And with the tax deduction, it would be as if your income is then $10 less than your starting value. Does that make any sense? All right, if you want to go ahead and skip to the next page, Jayce. So here are some common tax deductions that a lot of farmers see or utilize. So it's interest paid on farm loans, rent or lease payments. A lot of farmers are renting their land out or they are leasing land. Repairs and maintenance, whether it be on combines, equipment, it could be really anything. Real estate and personal property taxes is also very commonly used as a tax deduction. Seed and plant costs, as well as fertilizers and lime, and then conservation expenses as well. So these all will flow in to your Schedule F. So some tips to avoid common tax mistakes. A lot of people do not think about this, but it's very important to think about is your retirement plan, especially as you get older and decide, hey, maybe farming isn't for me anymore. So it's important to make sure that you are contributing to a retirement plan of any sorts, whatever of your choosing. Make sure if you have any questions regarding if items are tax deductible, and it can be the smallest, little silliest thing, whether it be feed like Jayce was talking about at TSC, definitely reach out to your accountant to see, where it should be going into your Schedule F and if it is able to be deducted. A lot of people have various segments of their farm, and you are able to earn income from multiple ways. So it's important that you understand what must be reported as income from your farm, because you do not want to be leaving out any type of income, as it can cause lots of major issues down the line in your taxes and with the IRS, which is no fun. And lastly, something that you can do to kind of maximize deductions, if you would like, if you have children working on your farm who are under the age of 18, you do have the ability to pay them for their work as long as it is less than $14,600. And they have the potential, as long as all of proper payroll and everything like that is filed, to be exempt from some certain taxes there. And then when to consult a tax professional, because we all have questions and we all need to consult a tax professional from time to time. It's important to check in with your tax professional if you have any questions regarding your Schedule F. A lot of the times just generalized record keeping, because it can become overwhelming throughout the year. So make sure you're scheduling time to sit down, talk through your records, talk through how to best maximize deductions for your Schedule F. And then some common questions that you can ask when looking for a tax professional is specific business structure, and if it is applicable to your farm. So should I be an S Corp? Should I be an LLC? Should I be a C Corp? Are you well-versed in the agricultural industry? If I come to you, can you help me if I need it? Are you able to assist me with deciding if I should sell or trade in my equipment and how it might affect my depreciation and write-off status? Would it be better for me to purchase brand new equipment? So there's a lot of important questions that may come up along the year as you are preparing for your taxes. So be sure to just talk with a tax professional.
Morgan, do you know if, so this is really interesting. I had
Mhm.
no idea about the child pay, like that you can pay your kids up
Mhm.
to, you know,
Yeah.
$14,100. We actually had Sam in the chat is asking if the numbers we're sharing here, like let's say specifically the income for children one, does that also apply in Canada? Like, do we know if there's a similar policy in Canada where you can employ your kids?
I do not know off the top of my head, but that is something I can definitely research for you. I know this is more US specific,
Mhm.
but I can definitely look into that for you, Sam.
Awesome. Yeah. Be curious to hear.
And then lastly, here are a few Canadian tax tips. I will say I'm no professional in Canadian tax, as we just learned, but I am more than willing to look stuff up for you and kind of research more for you. So make sure to maximize tax deductions and credits. A lot of these are similar to some of the things that we just went over. And then consider income splitting. So income splitting is when somebody has a higher tax bracket than somebody else in their family. So this is only able to be happening within a family and or a household, but they're able to split some of their income off to the lower income spouse per se, and to help everybody kind of get a better tax amount that they're being taxed. And then lastly, make sure you're keeping your records up to date and talk with a CPA if needed. Like Jay said, be sure that you are taking photos of all of your receipts in case you are audited, so you're able to keep those um, at the forefront of your mind if needed.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Morgan, for that. And we have some real-time research happening from Kyle here. Thank you, Kyle, on, you know, Canadian tax tips on youth employment and skills. Cool. Moving on here, we've kind of covered this. All of these types of, you know, record keeping tools are represented in folks who are attending today. One of the things that we've seen that are sort of a pro and con of each are, you know, for Excel spreadsheets, the beauty of this system, especially if you feel like you're adept at financial modeling or you feel really comfortable with Excel, is you can actually build a self-designed ad hoc system that really works for you and for your unique operation that you alone understand and can really optimize for the unique situation you're in. If you do go this route, just make sure that you have like a really systematic way of tagging each transaction like we spoke about, and then exporting your data efficiently in a structured way to your accountant. You may have to also export, you know, that information into balance sheet, income statement for accessing financial resources. So just thinking about like how you're going to get the data out in an efficient way is important. Same with pen and paper. We have found this to be a very, you know, a very well-oiled machine for a lot of producers who just, you know, want to have their notebook out in the field. My dad is actually a great example here. He for years has been using a notebook, pen and paper, or you know, a written log for our finances, and he's just now kind of transitioning into software. So this can be great. Again, just make sure that you have consistency is really key. So if you can set an alarm or something to ensure that you're tagging your transactions in an ongoing way so that come tax time or any type of financial event, you're able to really efficiently pull out those records and organize them. In terms of accounting software, you have so much to choose from now. I suspect that if you work with an accountant, they're probably encouraging you to get onto an accounting tool. That's a trend that we're seeing across the US now, is accountants are kind of encouraging their farmers, gently pushing them onto an accounting platform that is software. QuickBooks is online now. It's an online tool, and what we've heard farmers like about it is it is something that works well with their accountant. You can also create tags that work for your operation. We've also heard that producers don't like it just because the tags are not necessarily set up for farming specifically or designed for farmer use. And to answer that need, we're now seeing a lot of, you know, different accounting farm accounting tools springing up, and FarmRaise is one of these. We've been around now for about 5 years, and we work with thousands of producers in every U.S. state now. And we think you'll actually really like us if you're interested in trying us out. I don't want to bias you too much, but I'm obviously not objective here. I'll share with you what the software does to make tax season easier. It covers a lot of the best practices that we have talked about and then some. We enable you to manually enter each expense and click a picture of your receipt so that you have a digital paper trail. If you don't want to manually enter your expense, you can also link directly to your bank account, and those transactions will automatically flow into the app and enable really streamlined tagging so that everything can map back to your Schedule F and core financial statements. All the tags that we have are pre-set up to categorize aligned with those core agricultural categories. We make it really easy for you to import your data into the app from your bank records or from QuickBooks or your prior system. You can track your mileage in the app and then generate all the financial statements you need, as well as custom reports. Beyond that, we also have developed this massive grant and financial incentive database of different grants, loans, and cost share programs that you as a producer can apply for to not just, power your production, but also your sales, your marketing. There's just so many opportunities out there, and we are tracking those and updating them. We also have an amazing team of US-based customer success folks, including Morgan, who work really hard with our producers every day to make sure they're being served and empowered. Our community is all about making sure farmers are feeling empowered and confident in running their business and then taking their business to the next level. We have some amazing financial and tax prep assistance as well on the platform. We're actually now able to pair you with a tax accountant who can work with you directly through the FarmRaise tool to, one, help you prepare your taxes for this year, next year, but then also do quarterly check-ins with you to make sure you're meeting your financial goals. We also recently added payroll to the platform. So that's what FarmRaise does. We're really passionate about serving farmers and would love to work with you. And we're offering all local line users a special coupon to get 10% off our core software alongside our financial planning service as well. This doesn't include payroll, but this is including all the tools that are really relevant today to our tax discussion. And Kyle, I'm going to turn it over to you now to talk a bit more about the local line integrations that enable tax season.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jayce, for the presentation, and thanks, Morgan, as well for your part. Some of you might know me. I'm Kyle from the Farm Outreach team. I'm here in currently snowing Toronto, so it just started again. There's a few names that I recognize in the chat. A couple of them I was rather speaking to just earlier today, like Adeyemi, hello, and Sam. I know we were chatting today as well. Again, some other familiar names there, so that's great to see. I'm going to take a moment here and share my screen, and yeah, I'll quickly go through some local line functionalities to support you during tax season. And as well, I know we have some Canadians on the call too, so feel free to send over any questions. And like Jayce mentioned, we'll try to get some answers there. I know I have some outlets where I can hopefully help as well. So yeah, hopefully my screen is visible and familiar to some of you. This is your local line back office. So I'm just going to kind of quickly go through how you can set yourself up for tax season within local line, starting with the foundational part here. When you go into your payment settings, you can start by enabling your sales tax settings, which will be automated. For whatever reason you need to override it, you can do so in the override function. And then when you're dealing with products, when you're dealing with fees that might be associated with your sales through your local line e-commerce, you can see when I go into my Apple product, for example, I can go through and I can have all my inventory tracking, all my usual flags, and different package splitting. And after I've created my packages or my variants, I get to assign it to a price list. So if you're dealing with one customer segment or buying group that is not tax applicable, you don't have to feel the need to create an override or a tax. You can simply choose not to turn the taxable slider on. So you get to do this on a product by product basis. If you have any fulfillment fees or if you have delivery fees that are taxable, and then you have a lot of local food that, of course, typically is not taxable, you do have that discretion or compliance to turn it on or off. And then if you're doing like value-added goods or things that more commonly are taxable, you of course could add it to your price list, turn the tax toggle on, and you're all set. From there, when your orders start coming in and you're generating those orders, anyone who's familiar with the order table, you know you can run filters. You can look at all orders from a specific price list or all orders for a specific pickup point. And after you've done that, you're able to dynamically export a few different reports. So if I'm looking, a couple common ones that might be of interest to you for tax keeping would be the order summary without product detail. And then, of course, we also have the order list for QuickBooks Online. So I've actually went through and I've generated a couple of those. So if I'm looking at that order summary, I get a ledger here based on all the orders that I've selected with my filters. And I can go through and I can see here any tax on that order in the rightmost column. I can continue through and look at any fulfillment fees and tax that might apply. So you can see here, a lot of mine don't have tax toggled on, but other ones you can see I do. And continuing to carry through into column, let me just see here. So column AN, I can see if there was any tax on the payment method or any specific function or fee that would be associated. Everything's going to be collected in this dynamic report. And similarly with the QuickBooks report, I'm going to see those items. I'm going to see their categories, descriptions, any tags that I've set up in Localine or memos. And then I'm going to quickly at a glance be able to see if the tax code was toggled on or off, what the tax rate might be. And again, that can all be pulled from my Localine account. I can then import that into my QuickBooks Online account, or I can connect my Localine order table to my QuickBooks Online account using Zapier to push that information from Localine into QuickBooks. From there, in my reporting, I do have some additional functions to keep an eye on taxes that have been collected. When I go to my orders column here, I can see my revenue, my sales year to date, and I can see the taxes collected in any given period. So if I want to drill down to a specific time horizon or a specific price list or even period of fulfillment, I can run those filters and then I can get an ad hoc report on the taxes that I've collected. So that's an at-a-glance look at taxes within Localine. Obviously, FarmRaise is a more comprehensive platform for tracking P&L and for all the other great things that Jayce and Morgan mentioned. So just wanted to give a brief overview here. I think we also have a little bit of a period here for Q&A, so I'll just take my screen share away.
I will jump back in here. Thank you so much to our three presenters. That was amazing. Yeah, as Kyle mentioned, we're opening it up for your Q&A. So you can either use that Q&A box, you can use the chat, or if you wanted to talk, you can also raise your hand. It should just be at the bottom there on Zoom, and I can allow you to talk there. There was just a quick question I saw that Jayce already answered, but I'll just start there from Krista. Is FarmRaise and Localine user-friendly to flower farmers? Maybe Kyle, if you want to kick it off, and then Jayce, you can jump in.
For FarmRaise for flower farmers, sorry.
For if Localine is user-friendly to flower farmers as well as FarmRaise, but I'll let you address the Localine side of that.
No worries, I missed the first half there. Yeah, Localine absolutely is user-friendly for flower farmers. You have full customization over packaging and measurements for inventory. You can create bouquets, half bouquets, cut flowers. You can sell wholesale, direct to consumer. You can have a private list for any particular clients you might have and specific fulfillment plans. And yeah, we've even collaborated with some flower farmers in the past, like Flower Hill Farm. And yeah, I would encourage you to book a call with anyone from our team here, and we'd be happy to give you a personalized walkthrough.
Thanks.
That's awesome. Yeah, FarmRaise is absolutely built for flower farmers. One of our first engineers, our earliest engineers, actually had a flower operation with his wife when we started working together, and his wife really ran the day-to-day, but he was involved in that operation and actually channeled a lot of her perspectives and his perspectives working on that operation into the product itself. So we're really calling flower farmers everywhere to come in and use the FarmRaise product. But the beauty of our tool is that it's very adaptable to any type of agricultural production, even if you do something like aquaponics or something very niche. Or what really matters is, do you have financial transactions that you need to report, and we can work with you on that.
Awesome. Thank you. Let us know if that answered your question, Krista. Question here from Sarah. This is on the local line side. So for you, Kyle, can you talk a bit more about the middleman Zapier and how that integration works?
Yeah, absolutely. So our technical team has experience assisting local line users with connecting through Zapier. Typically, what Zapier does is it will link tables from one application to another. So Zapier does have a freemium version where I believe if you're doing 100 or less tasks per month, you can utilize it at no cost to you. From there, it does kind of scale based on how much activity you're looking to use through Zapier. I believe the next tier is around $20 a month, and that gives you greater integrations. It allows you to have automations that they go rather than just point A to point B, they can go A, B, C. It can go back and forth between the two platforms. So usually how you start with Zapier is it'll link to the account on Localine and then your QuickBooks Online account. You're going to see from each column, whether it's the tax column or the tax column on QuickBooks, you're just going to select from choices what goes where. And again, our support team can assist with getting that tuned up for you too, because there is a lot of functionality and a lot of different fields in the Localine product table that usually requires a bit of help from our support team, but we can definitely assist with that. Or if you prefer, you can keep them separated and you can use that snapshot that I showed you where you can pull the data every 30 days, every 60 days, every quarter, and then you could import it into your QuickBooks if that's more preferable to you as well.
Awesome. Thank you. Let me know if you have any follow-up questions. I have a hand up here from Taishia, so I'm going to allow you to talk now. So you should be able to ask your question.
I'm sorry, I must have hit raise.
Oh,
by
no worries. No problem at all.
Thanks for being here.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay. Another question here from Pat. Is the program user-friendly for a microgreen grower? Sorry, that was a tongue twister. And for annual plants. Yeah, awesome.
Likewise on the Localine side. So similar, I saw Sam, thank you for your help. But yeah, with microgreens, you could do subscriptions, with Localine as well. So definitely also user-friendly.
Awesome. Question here from Glenn. What integrations does FarmRaise support? Zapier, Square, is it intended to replace QuickBooks?
Yeah, so we work with Plaid to directly link to the, your core financial source of truth. Which is for most of our users, it's their bank account. If you have specific integration needs, let's talk. We're constantly adding to our list of integrations. So for instance, if something, we don't offer is not there, we'd love to hear from you on why you need it and when you need it so that we can look at bringing that into our product. Something that we hear from a lot of our users that they love about working with our team is we're constantly taking your feedback in and updating our product with it. So if you talk to a FarmRaise user, they'll likely shout out that they've seen that in action, and it's something that we really pride ourselves on.
Awesome. Yeah, Glenn, if there's any specific integrations you're looking for, let us know. And if there's any other questions from the audience, for the FarmRaise team, for simplifying your taxes, maybe any functionality of both Localine or FarmRaise. Square, do you guys integrate with Square? I guess is a question from Tony.
We don't have a Square integration today, but we've actually had several farmers just like in the past month asking this for this. So it's now going into our roadmap. It sounds
Awesome.
like something that's important for you, Tanya and Glenn. Yeah, and I think Glenn has a hand up.
Oh, sorry, Glenn. I will allow you to talk. There we go.
Hi, Glenn.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I saw it seemed like you didn't have an overwhelming amount of questions, so I thought I'd put my hand up. So the reason I was asking about integrations, and you asked what kind of integrations, I mean, Square would be an example because I use Localine. We use Square for credit card processing. So all those transactions are going into Square, and ideally they would end up in something like FarmRaise or QuickBooks or whatever automatically without me having to import them every month, because during the season I don't have time for that. And then by the off season, I've forgotten everything. So that would be the main one. And so my understanding is that FarmRaise would essentially replace QuickBooks for farmers. No farmers would be using both of them.
Yes, absolutely. Our goal is to completely replace the QuickBooks experience. One, because we think it's too complicated and time consuming, and two, because we want farmers to use an accounting tool that actually has agricultural tags built in.
Yeah. So the other thing I'll say about integrations is like sort of optimal state with local line. It allows you to do things like when the person places an order, they can select multiple payment methods. So it could be a credit card, but it could also be an e-transfer in Canada is common, or maybe a check or something like that in the US. And so an integration through Zapier to QuickBooks to have QuickBooks send an invoice to the customer and then use Zapier to mark that invoice as paid once the customer sends the e-transfer and stuff. So I would say definitely Zapier would be a place that I would think that people would want FarmRaise to support that type of integration.
That's awesome. And I'm taking notes so we can send this all back to our product team that's like currently road mapping our next 3 months. We actually do invoicing within FarmRaise itself. So if you knew that you could do it all within our platform, would Zapier still be a top level ask for you?
Well, the reason is because the customer submits their order in local line. So I don't want to have to go into FarmRaise manually and create that invoice and send it to the customer. I want that order to trigger the creation of the invoice and send it to the customer.
Absolutely. That totally makes sense.
It
Okay.
sounds like even apart from the Square integration, utilizing all those payment methods with local line as a source of truth would be an even better integration, Glenn, right? Like local line to FarmRaise directly.
The one problem I have using Square is that only Square knows what the credit card fees are. So to get everything completely automated, I have that problem. That's my last problem.
Oh, yeah, I think local line to FarmRaise is the idyllic.
Yeah, there is a question. Do they integrate today?
I think it's time. I think we should make this happen.
Yeah.
Tell Cole we're ready.
Absolutely. We'll definitely have to give them a heads up. So so short answer, unfortunately, not natively today, but we're here together. We're communicating, and it sounds like a great idea.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Glenn. Was that all, or did you have anything else?
Nope, that's it. Thanks.
Okay, perfect.
Thanks,
Thank
Glenn.
you so much. Okay, a few more questions that came in. We have a big one here from Janet, so I will read through it. Am I correct that in order to file a Schedule A, at least 2/3 of my farm sales must come from raw product? And if so, how is FarmRaise for Schedule C? For example, as a flower farmer, I would have 2/3 of my sales of flower stems and only 1/3 of my sales come from bouquets I've made from wedding arches or centerpieces, etc. I believe the latter would be considered a value add product instead of a raw product.
Yeah. So today we would help you bucket out those expenses to ensure that they're flowing in the right direction. We on FarmRaise can actually generate a draft Schedule F for you with most of the data already filled, so you can seamlessly take that to your accountant, whether you work with FarmRaise for tax filing or a separate accountant. For the Schedule C, we would enable you to tag transactions in a way that helps you have those organized so that you can then fill out your Schedule C. We don't auto-generate a Schedule C today, but if we have enough farmers asking us for it, we probably will in the near future. Does that answer I know that there were a few pieces in that question. I want to make sure I answered that.
For sure. Yeah. Janet, if you also want to jump on and kind of explain further. Oh, perfect. There you are. Awesome.
Hey, Janet.
Allowed to talk. Yeah, should work now.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, that does answer the question. This was just very timely for me because I came across FarmRaise. I was very intrigued by it, and I just got an accountant finally. I'm entering my 5th year of flower farm. And so she set me up in QuickBooks, and you get a discount through QuickBooks if you go through an accountant. And so I sent her a note and I said, hey, would you still support me if I switched over to FarmRaise? And she said, I don't think that a Schedule F is right for you because 2/3 of your sales doesn't come just from the raw product. You still need to do a Schedule C. So we were just in the middle of that conversation when this seminar or this webinar came up. So that's what I was trying to sort through. And also wondering if accountants can support you through FarmRaise like they do. I see that you have your own team, but if I have an accountant already, can she support me through FarmRaise in the same way that they do through QuickBooks, where they get access?
Yeah, great
yeah.
question, Janet. So today, if you brought your accountant on into the app, we would enable you to export all of your data with special notes that we've actually written in to ensure that the accountant can quickly get onboarded into what each category means for your farm. Not every farmer who works with an accountant is actually a farm-ready accountant. It sounds like yours actually really is. But we enable really clean exporting out of the program so that the accountant can then take that data and put it into their system. Now, in our roadmap, actually, the next thing we're going to be building on our next sprint is to looking into how can we implement an accountant view in the app so that an accountant can actually log on into the platform as a partner and look at your data in an accountant view format. That's something that's coming down the line really efficiently in our product and is very soon. So it sounds like that might be something that would be an important feature for you to see. Is that right, Janet?
Yes, absolutely. I have to confess that the finances are the hardest part of the business for me, and she has definitely seen that as she's gone through some of this with me. So I could use that kind of hand-holding from her where she goes online and helps me, through some of this process. So I think she'd feel better about it and I'd feel better about it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. If you happen to get on FarmRaise like in the next few weeks before we have this feature implemented, you can also share your login with her directly. We enable multiple folks to be logged in together as a quick workaround to get started faster. But we do plan to have that, accountant view coming down the pike in the future.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much for answering that.
Of course.
Thank you so much, Janet. Perfect. There was another question from Amy also related to Schedule C. So I thought I'd just ask that because it's quite relevant. You talked about FarmRaise helping out with the Schedule F. Does it apply to Schedule C? And can we divide transactions between multiple businesses and farm enterprises?
Yeah, great question. So for Schedule C today, like I said, we auto-generate a draft Schedule F. We don't auto-generate a draft Schedule C, but you can categorize your transactions in a way that will help you cleanly flow those toward a Schedule C to fill out on your own. It sounds like we are hearing a couple folks who really have that Schedule C need already underway. So that's interesting. I'm taking note of that. And then on the multiple farm enterprise piece, we enable producers to tag their transactions not just with Schedule F categories, but also with a farm product or enterprise category. So if you want to be able to bucket out different farm sub businesses within your business, you can develop tags that will enable you to do that cleanly. If you have two separate farm businesses, like if one is an LLC and one is a sole proprietorship, we would encourage you to get two separate FarmRaise accounts to cleanly track expenses across both of those. That's also something we're thinking about in the future is a way to enable producers who do have multiple entities to have them all in one account. But since we are, we're constantly building this from the ground up, we started with enabling producers to start with one farm business.
Sounds good. Amy, let us know if you have any follow-ups for that one. A few more questions about integrations with FarmRaise. So do you integrate with Shopify or Etsy today?
Oh, today we don't integrate with either of those. Our main integration is that farmer's bank account. So if you're having transactions flowing from Shopify or Etsy, those will then flow from your bank account into FarmRaise for categorization. But we don't have that direct integration today. I'd be curious to hear more about what you would do with that direct integration and why that's important to you so that I can take note of that.
Sure. Awesome. Yeah, Katrina, if you want to provide any more information. And then another follow-up integration question from Patrick, which you somewhat already answered. Are there any other point of sales integrated with FarmRaise today, but maybe Patrick, you want to provide what point of sale system you're using, and then they can take note of that as well. Awesome. Question here from Taishia. I'm a small farmer with value-added products that seem to bring in most of my revenue, so kind of similar to that Schedule C. So do you think that FarmRaise would be a good fit for their business?
Yeah, I'd say if you have to fill out a Schedule F, if your accountant is asking you to do that, absolutely. And one thing to think about FarmRaise beyond just the Schedule F versus Schedule C is we also enable you to generate your financial statements. So your balance sheet, your income statement, do running cash flow reports, those sorts of things I think would be very useful for your operation, especially if you're, looking to grow it or if you're looking to access financial resources for it. Remember, we have also that funding library that can help to power your operation.
Awesome. Thanks, Jayce. Just a few more questions here. We're running out of time, but a question from Sarah. How would you recommend separating a certain percentage of taxable items that are both personal and farm, such as electrical, internet, property, etc.?
Yeah, I think you have to think about, make a really calculated call on what % you think those are going toward personal versus the farm business. You can estimate for sure, but just make your best honest estimation on that. We had to do that actually when we put up solar panels, because if a percentage of those solar panels flowed into our farm business versus our home, we could get a major tax break on it, and it would have been really exciting. But the reality was most of that energy was actually going to go to the home rather than the farm business, so we didn't get it. Just give it your best honest guess.
Awesome. Question here about pricing and FarmRaise. So if it's like an annual plan or a monthly subscription, how it works?
Oh yeah, it can be monthly or you can go annual. And if you don't like it, you can try. Actually, the first thing I'd say is try it out. We have a free trial where you can test the product for 7 days. And if you don't like it, you can cancel. You don't get charged or anything. And every software product, I would say do it that way first to see if it works for you. And then if you want to go annually, and let's say you use it for a while, but it's not working for you, I do believe we have some sort of refund policy around that too, and we'll work with you on that. So like no pressure really. We want to make sure that this tool is working for you. And the free trial is a really great way to get started on that.
Awesome. Okay, one last question here from Francis. For FarmRaise, how are fixed assets on the balance sheet managed?
Ooh. There are a lot of ways I could answer that. So I hope that I am giving you what you need here. But we break it down into, long-term versus intermediate assets. Really, I think the long-term assets are the real fixed ones. And we enable you to put in your information along to really, document what is the value of that asset, and then track the information you need to be able to estimate depreciation with your accountant. And depreciation can be tricky because different farm accountants want you to do it different ways. And your accountant may have a specific way that they're expecting you to depreciate your fixed assets. And you can use depreciation to optimize your return as well, right? Like you can do straight line depreciation, or you can, accelerate that depreciation. So the way that we've designed it is we're enabling you to track the data you need to then go to your accountant, who will help you optimize depreciation, ideally not just for this year, but every year moving forward.
Awesome.
And if you have questions about how it works specifically in the product, come on in and do a free trial.
Perfect. Sounds great. Sorry. My apologies, Natalie. I misread your question about the annual plan. She's actually asking if I kept FarmRaise year over year, would my prices increase, or would I always have the original pricing?
Oh no, we have a commitment to all of our producers to keep your original price.